Hello, Leeds Beckett University students, and welcome to this webinar, Webinar 8, the final webinar in this series, the transition into the world of work. And you can see where it fits within the series. We will have done 8 sessions, and all are based on my book From Learner to Earner, which you can see a little graphic of in the corner there, and you can find it over on Amazon. If you've missed any of the sessions that we've covered so far, be sure to go back and check out the ones which are relevant to you. A couple of brief introductions before we get started with the content. So my name's Sophie, I'm MD here at SRS. We work with employers and universities within graduate recruitment and employability. For employers, we support them by designing their assessment materials and processes and help them to recruit their graduates. For universities, we run assessment centre simulations and a variety of other employability type activities. If we're not already connected, I'd love to hear from you over on whichever platform you're most comfortable with. You can see my various social media handles there on the screen. Helen?
Hi, yeah, I'm the University Partnerships Manager for SRS, working with Sophie on these webinars, workshops and assessment centre experiences. It's been a pleasure putting these webinars together for you. I hope you find this final one useful. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen. And as always, we are joined by a guest expert. Today's guest expert is Penny Williams, who is an executive coach and has lots of other experience related to graduate recruitment as well. So we'll be hearing from Penny a little bit later on. I'm going to hand you over to Helen now, who's going to be running the bulk of this session.
Thanks, Sophie. So you'll see from the agenda that we're going to look at managing offers, making that great first impression, how to behave in the workplace, as well as goal setting and longer term career planning. So finally, you get the news you've been waiting for. All your hard work's paid off and you've got that job offer. Nothing can quite prepare you for the words, "We'd like to offer you the position." But before you jump in and sign on a dotted line, you need to consider several factors, particularly if you've got a few applications pending and the one you want the most is yet to be confirmed. The important thing is to take your time. Your head's likely to be buzzing with excitement at the thought of your new role, potentially your new life, but you need to stop and take a breath and give yourself some time to process the information before confirming your decision. When replying, ensure you express your enthusiasm for the offer and show interest. And here's an appropriate response. "Thank you very much for the offer. I want to stress how excited I am about the role and your organisation. However, please can I have some extra time so that I can fully consider this offer?" Now, most graduate employers will understand your desire to take time to consider the role, and just make sure you reply within a suitable time frame. For example, if they give you 2 weeks to think about it, make sure you get back to them within that time frame. Otherwise, they may retract the offer. Now, usually a verbal offer over the telephone will be followed up by a formal offer letter or email. And this letter will include things such as job title, department, salary and benefits, start date, and other terms and conditions. Now, if you're happy with all of this, you can accept the offer by email or usually in some form of writing. And remember, it's important to withdraw from any other application processes you're still involved in at this point, as a courtesy to other employers and candidates. Now, if you're lucky enough to find yourself in a position where you have to decide which offer to choose, consider these questions. What makes each job or organisation different? What's your order of preference? What are the offers and how do they compare? Consider what feels right about each organisation. Do you prefer its values and culture? Perhaps the location is good. Maybe it has better development opportunities. As mentioned, it's okay to ask employers for some time so you can decide which offer is best for you. Just don't take too long, because unless you've already made the employer aware of a specific timeline, you might find the opportunities being given to someone else. And definitely don't play organisations off against each other. This really isn't professional and it'll damage your credibility and your reputation. Now, it's worth reading the following student case study. I'll just give you a moment to have a look through that. Now, in today's climate, you might be prevented from visiting the actual office, but there's nothing to stop you from asking to have a virtual chat with some recent graduates who work for them or some other of their employees. If you decide to decline an offer, contact the organisation as soon as possible so they can make alternative arrangements to fill the position. There may be an opportunity to work for them in future, so ensure that you leave them with a positive impression. Always be polite and professional and thank them for the opportunity. It's a small world and you'll never know if your paths may cross again. As if getting through the interview process wasn't terrifying enough, now you may have to think about negotiating your pay and benefits. Clearly defined starting salaries and benefits will likely be set out at the beginning of the application process. But if you do find yourself in a place where you can negotiate, perhaps with a smaller business, there's a few things to consider. Know the market. Look at other graduate roles in the field and see how the salary compares. Be realistic and manage your own expectations. And also think beyond salary and consider the benefits package you're being offered. Things such as annual leave, bonus schemes, relocation costs, flexible working, healthcare and pension, to name but a few. Now, your employer is likely to have a figure in mind for your salary, but it's worth asking if there's any flexibility in the offer, as well as how regularly those salary reviews will take place. You may be so excited to get an offer that you immediately want to accept. It could mean working for your ideal business in an exciting role, but you must nevertheless take time to reflect on the details of the offer. In your offer letter and during your negotiations, make sure that the following questions are addressed, and if they're not, contact the employer to find out the answers to questions such as, where will I be working from? What are my working hours? Or what pension contribution does the employer make? And there's other examples there on the screen. And once you've accepted the job, keep in touch with your new employer. They may have additional paperwork for you to complete, or they may want you to meet with your manager or the rest of the team before you start. You might think the days of studying and researching are over, but now it's important to prepare yourself for your new role and the organisation. Talk to your employer to find out if there's anything you can do in advance, such as, is there any reading to do regarding the position, industry or organisation? Who are the competitors to research? What industry publications might be worth reading? Does the induction require you to complete anything in your own time, such as mandatory training? Consider using the time before you start to get organised, such as thinking about the things you might need when you start work, such as stationery or other equipment. You might also be required to bring some essential documents with you or send them in advance. Know the dress code and make sure you have the right clothing. Organise your travel or your tech arrangements, either planning your route to work or practicing with a digital platform that the employer will be using. And think about what you're going to do for the lunch and breaks. And most importantly, make the most of your time off before you start and have a break. This time is precious, so make the most of it. And here we've got another student case study, which I'll just give you a few moments to have a read through. Now, clearly you might not be able to go travelling at the moment, and your travel route may be just from your bedroom to your living room. However, the key messages are the same: the importance of preparation before you start your new role and the need to keep yourself informed about relevant changes in the industry. Similarly, this employer also emphasises the need to be proactive before you start your new job. Now, it can be challenging to transition from university into the world of work. You're moving from studying and exam revision to a full-time job, which can be a very big change. And for graduates who haven't been employed before, even more so, it can be a big culture shock. In light of the pandemic, this transition might be even more difficult if you have to begin with a virtual induction and start by working remotely. So let's now hear from Penny Williams with some top tips on how to handle this transition.
Starting out in your career is a very exciting time, and of course you want to do everything you can to be successful. In order to get off to a great start, I'd suggest 3 things to help you transition into your new role. Firstly, get to know people in your new company, people in your department, in other departments, and people in social clubs within your organisation. You'll be amazed how building up contacts will really help when you need to know who to go and speak to in order to make things happen. And other people will know too who to speak to in your department if they need a contact. And developing good contacts throughout the organisation will make the working day much more endurable, and you'll be more aware of initiatives which are going on. It may be more challenging to get to know people if you're working from home, but a lot of employers will be creating opportunities for virtual and online networking. Seek them out and take part. Secondly, develop a good reputation for being someone who delivers more than your role by looking for new opportunities to do more than your job spec and keenly making these opportunities your own. Such as, when the new online tool is introduced in your department, become the team expert on how it works and help colleagues if they have questions. You can quickly become the go-to person for the subject and start developing a reputation as someone who's approachable. I will always remember one of the best graduates who worked for me. He showed great initiative and drive, keenly adding new and useful things to his role. He became trusted throughout the department and people found him easy to work with, and he gained a very positive reputation and visibility with senior management, who then started to think of him when new opportunities arose, which then springboarded his career. With working from home these days, everyone is adapting. There may be new opportunities which remote working brings, in which you could become the expert. Thirdly, keep in regular contact with your manager through one-to-one meetings. Your manager is likely to be very busy, but they will also be your greatest ally. If you can figure out what's important to them, do what you can to support them in them being successful. Your professional relationship with your manager is really important, as they will hold the opportunities to further your career. So in summary, get to know people in your company. Look for new opportunities to do more than people expect, and also get to know your manager. And I wish you well as you start to transition into your new role.
Thanks very much to Penny there. So it's important to start as you mean to go on in your new job. And there are a few things you can do on your first day and beyond to impress your new employer. It goes without saying, arrive on time. It's always better to be early than it is to be late. Leave yourself plenty of time and consider your travel arrangements and how long it will take you to get to work in rush hour. Or practice with the tech beforehand if it's a virtual induction, and get yourself logged on early. Never underestimate the importance of dressing appropriately. The way that you dress can have a big impact on first impressions. And most organisations adhere to one of 3 dress codes, and you need to find out which one is relevant. For example, it could be business professional, such as for banking and financial services, where a suit, shirt and tie is required. Alternatively, it could be business casual, such as for marketing or engineering, where smart trousers and shirts are acceptable. Or it could be comfy casual, jeans and a t-shirt. Nothing says I'm pleased to be joining more than having that positive and can-do attitude. Show enthusiasm for being part of the team and meet new people. Leave any personal problems to one side and channel your passion into this new opportunity. Ask questions or seek help if you need it. No one expects you to know everything on your first day, and you may find that it takes weeks or even months until you feel comfortable with everything. Enjoy those first few weeks of being new and ask lots of questions, because this really shows your interest and that you care about doing things right. And it's far better to ask for help than plough on with a task and make mistakes that you could have avoided. And finally, stay organised. You'll likely attend an induction programme where you can make lots of notes, listen to what's being said about the culture and any processes or rules that they may have, keep a diary, or make a to-do list to help you stay organised. You'll be surprised by how much information you receive in those first few weeks to help your brain out and make those notes so that you can refer back to them later should you need reminding of something. Now, different organisations will have different cultures and expectations, and often there's actually quite a few unwritten rules about how to behave in a particular workplace. And so the best things you can do are firstly read the company handbook, understand their policies, procedures and written rules. Secondly, be curious and ask questions. And if possible, observe interactions and relationships between colleagues, managers and leaders to see what's acceptable and what isn't. Now, clearly this does become a lot harder if you're working online as opposed to being in the workplace. However, you can still pay attention to the words, tone of voice and body language that is used in virtual meetings, for example, and respond to cues from others. Some other key things to think about. We've got workplace etiquette. It's important to remember your manners, and I'm not just talking about your pleases and your thank yous. If you're given a work phone, make sure it's used only for work. And this also goes for your work email. Keep it professional and use your personal email only during break times or in your own time. It's human nature to make mistakes, and at some point in your career you will make one, and it might be a whopper. Just remember that mistakes happen to the best of us, and often how you handle that mistake is far more important than the mistake itself. So always admit when it happens, don't ignore it or try to blame the mistake on someone else. Take full responsibility and look for ways to fix it. And if in doubt, always ask for help. Respect in the workplace is extremely important. And colleagues who respect each other tend to get along well. No boss wants their employees arguing and fighting. Always be polite and professional. Avoid unnecessary conflict or drama. Do the things you've agreed to do. Share the workload. Never take credit for someone else's work. Now, whether you're attending a virtual meeting, a conference, a webinar, or a night out, hopefully in the months to come, remember that you're representing your employer and you're effectively a brand ambassador. Dress appropriately and manage your intake of alcohol. Always remain professional. And should other colleagues be unable to attend the events, be willing to share information and what you've learned. And the workplace can be full of rumours and gossip. It can be difficult not to get involved. Try to keep your distance from the office gossips. Every workplace has got one. And remain neutral on work-related topics during those first few weeks. It's okay to have an opinion, but think first before sharing it, making sure it's well thought through and that it adds value. The world of work brings a lot of new challenges, one of which is understanding what's expected of you. And you'll need to understand how your performance will be measured. Because unlike university, workplace performance isn't always black and white, such as pass or fail. You'll hopefully have gained insight into the role while applying for a graduate job, but it's important to be clear on what your employer expects from you now. And these expectations will include things such as behaviour, the quality of your work, results, skills, general competence, and they're usually set out in a performance management or appraisal process. You should also look to build a relationship with your line manager and agree on how often you'll meet. This is your opportunity to discuss performance and will help keep your boss informed on how you're getting on. Together you can work through any challenges you might be facing. Agree to specific dates and times and send a calendar invite. Your line manager is likely to suggest this approach, but it doesn't hurt to be one step ahead of the game. And here you can see some insights shared by our employer experts. Now, all of these hints and tips are relevant for a transition into the workplace or working from home. However, let's take a quick look at what employers are doing with regards to virtual inductions and remote working. I'm going to hand you over to Sophie to talk through this.
Thank you, Helen. So you can still expect an induction via an onboarding platform. The length of a virtual induction depends on the role and the organisation, but for larger firms, it's typically around 3 days. A lot of employers are still sending out an induction pack in advance of the first day, providing a further opportunity to understand their vision, values, and structure. In some cases, each employee is being emailed with an individual timeline highlighting a variety of virtual events, meet and greets, and online training modules. As part of the induction, there will also probably be a mix of pre-recorded talks and live Q&A sessions. Employers recognise that it is harder to form those personal connections online, and therefore they are likely to communicate a lot more with you, particularly through channels such as WhatsApp and Slack, where you'll be able to join and interact with different communities. Social events are also being hosted through platforms such as Zoom. So with regards to remote working, all of the top tips that we've already covered still apply. However, some key points to consider are creating a dedicated workspace. Now, I know this might be difficult if you're in shared accommodation, for example, but do what you can to create a professional, distraction-free environment where everything you need is to hand. Implement a routine that replicates the working hours of your employers, such as setting clear start and finish times. Try and coincide your breaks with others so that you can join virtual coffee catch-ups. As a recent graduate, you might be used to the flexibility of working whenever and wherever, but it's important to try and get into a similar working routine to your colleagues, particularly once you're at the point of returning to an office environment, for example. Be upfront and honest about what you can and can't do. With remote working, it can be even harder to spot when someone is struggling or needs help. Therefore, you have to speak up that bit more and be very clear about how you're feeling and progressing with your work. With regards to using the different technology and platforms, this should be a help rather than a hindrance, and so tell your employer if you haven't got the right equipment or if you need further training, for example. Make sure that you establish your expectations from your manager and in turn what they expect from you, particularly with regards to timings about when you will catch up, when you'll receive feedback and review your objectives or development. Get yourself a mentor. With you not being able to bounce ideas off colleagues sitting near to you in the office, it's even more important to have an informal mentor or buddy who you can share your experiences with and ask for advice. Hand you back to Helen to finish up now.
Sophie. So we're now going to move on to career planning, because once you have a solid understanding of what's expected of you, you can set yourself goals and think about how you're going to work towards meeting the expectations of your line manager and the organisation. So you can see here, in terms of setting your goals, you need to identify what's important to you, what do you need to achieve, and what are your strengths and development areas. With regards to planning, you want to look at the resources that are available to you. When do you want to achieve these goals by, and who can support you? You should also take action and record what methods of learning are available, who could coach or mentor you, how are you going to achieve those goals. And a very important part of this process is reviewing and reflecting on what you've learned, what you could have done differently, and what are your next steps. Now you can record your goals, objectives and areas for development using a personal development plan. And this is an action plan to help you get from where you are to where you want to be. And we'll be sharing a link to a template for this that you'll be able to access as part of our free resources. Now, although you've probably been focused on getting your first graduate job, you've likely given some thought to what you want from your career long term. And there are good habits you can get into that will help develop your career at pace and help you succeed throughout your working life. Firstly, record your accomplishments. When you start your graduate job, you'll likely be working on many different projects for many different teams. Fast forward to 8 months in and you probably won't remember all your successes and achievements. But if you start recording them now, they'll be easy to recall when you get to your performance review. And as part of the free resources we'll be giving you, you'll also have access to a record your accomplishments worksheet to help with this. You should also get a mentor, which is something that we previously mentioned. And many CEOs have actually said to us that having a mentor had a significant impact on their career. Now, while you might not be aiming for the role of CEO initially, that mentor or buddy could be a great sounding board, who offers impartial and confidential guidance throughout the first months of your career. Based on insights from their own experience, That mentor or buddy can help you prepare for cultural challenges in the workplace, deal with the learning curve, and what can sometimes be a difficult transition. They will also help you to plan your career, raise your profile, and identify opportunities to progress and develop. So I just want to spend a bit of time looking at finding a mentor and what the important skills are. So you need to find someone who challenges you in your thinking. A good mentor or buddy will always push you to be your best and not to shy away from opportunities to develop yourself. They should be experienced and credible. They should have advice they can share with you that's based on real life experiences. Your mentor should also be where you want to be. They may have the same vision of success as you. They should also support you. They will offer guidance and pick you up if you fall. And a very important one here, they should be good at listening. They should listen to you and help you make your own decisions rather than just giving you their own opinion. They also need to be available. A good mentor will always make time for you. And they should definitely respect you, never look down on you or judge you. And again, another important one, they must be able to provide honest and constructive feedback. They'll help celebrate your success, but also offer honest feedback to help you develop. They should help guide you towards answers and solutions. They shouldn't just give you the answer, but allow you the space to explore and figure it out for yourself. And they should also be invested in your success. Your mentor or buddy will be happy to see you succeed and grow within your career. And before we finish, I just wanted to draw your attention to some further tools that will help with your career planning. So SMARTER is a well-established tool to help guide your goal setting. And by using this acronym, you'll ensure that your goals are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely, exciting, and reviewable. And you'll be able to come back and pause the recording to have a look at this in more detail. A career development plan will also help you achieve those career goals, and a clear direction within your career is going to help you to grow and develop personally. Now, this particular plan helps you break down long-term goals into manageable steps. That way it's easy to stay on track and keep focused. In particular, it'll help you to take ownership of your career path, define your purpose and passions, identify your strengths, and where best to apply these. Ultimately, you won't get stuck in a rut and you'll be in control of your destiny. So that brings us to the end of this webinar, and I'll hand you back to Sophie.
Thank you, Helen. So as always, we've got some resources to share with you. So for this one, we have the personal development plan template, the record your accomplishments worksheet, career development plan link, your career service, of course, we keep mentioning them, but definitely check out what they're offering. And there's a link there to the book which the webinar series has been based upon. So if you're not already connected to us or to the career service over on social media, you can take your pick here from the various handles that we have. So take a pick of whichever is the one that you use the most and give us a follow. So thank you very much for your attention and for your participation in our webinar series. We hope that you found them useful and do connect with us. Thank you.
Thanks very much.